I lived in this house as a child that was rumored to have had a family murdered there. I was around 10 at the time. We used to see stuff here and there, someone running past our peripheral, etc. I even thought I saw a little girl at the end of the hallway once, but did a double take and she was gone. Well, one week, I kept having those falling dreams where you wake up right before you hit the ground, always waking up in a cold sweat. The last night this happened, I didn't immediately open my eyes, but instead heard a high-pitched cackle like a witch. When I finally came to, my blanket was hovering slightly above me, and in the corner of my closet is the little girl smiling at me. I pulled the covers over my head and eventually cried myself back to sleep. The best part of all this is we tried to tell my dad numerous times what we all witnessed in that house, but he never bought it. When we eventually moved, he had the power turned off a few days before we were actually set to be out. And on the last night, as he was leaving, grabbing the last box, he said he heard a voice that sounded like his mother's, calling his name from the back of the house. He told me this years later and said at first, he thought he was hearing one of our dogs before realizing they were all gone. One day, my neighbor walked over into my backyard while I was in my garden. He looked disheveled and was wearing pajamas. When I stood up, I noticed his eyes were sunken in, and it looked as if he lost a lot of weight. I tried to crack a joke about how this would be a great day to go down to the beach if it were not for the weather being so cold. But the joke fell flat. A week later, I bumped into his wife at the post office. She was in line in front of me, mailing about a dozen packages. I asked if her husband was feeling better, because he looked a bit under the weather last week when he was in my backyard. She tells me I must have been mistaken. He passed away over a month ago from cancer. The packages she was mailing were his action figure toy collection she sold online. I was speechless. Was I crazy? Maybe I did misjudge the weekend I thought I saw him. Then I really thought hard. I did not remember him saying anything to me. I did remember telling him the joke and it falling flat. I assumed I wasn't funny, and that's why he didn't laugh. Or maybe he couldn't, because it may have been just his spirit. When I returned home from the post office, I immediately start telling my wife about our neighbor. Before I could get out, he had passed away from cancer. She says, "Oh yeah, I saw you guys talking last weekend." And then I tell her about seeing his wife at the post office and being told about his passing. So we go to our security camera and play back the video from the week before. It's clear in the video that I do stand up. It's obvious I'm acknowledging the presence of someone and have a brief conversation. And then I go back to tending to my garden. But on the video, the entire time, I was the only person in my backyard. There was a young girl playing in her room one day when she heard a voice that sounded like her mother's from the kitchen.
"Sweetie, come down here."
The little girl jumped up and ran out the door, where she suddenly ran into her mother at the top of the stairs. Her mother reached out and quickly covered the girl's mouth so she couldn't make a sound.
"Don't go down there. I heard it too,"
she said. So a story I always tell around a campfire that I think is quite spooky is the legend of El Silbón, the whistling ghost. It's a Venezuelan folktale, but I have a tradition of telling it. El Silbón is said to dress like a farmer with a large straw hat, torn clothes, ghostly aura, and a pale, dead face. The legend goes that on cold, dark nights in remote places, especially in South America, a whistle can be heard coming down the road. At first, it will seem loud, like it's right next to you, but as time passes, it begins to fade and get more and more quiet. until it's almost gone. The trick is, as Silbón's whistle gets louder, he's further away. And when he's right next to you, the whistle is very faint and sounds like it's far away. Once El Silbón is at your doorstep, he will sit down and begin to count the skulls of his victims. And you have to listen to him count every single skull, or one of your family members will die soon after and become one of his skulls. The reason I want to post this is so that nobody else will make the mistake that I almost made. A few years ago, like usual, I was sleeping in my bedroom, which is on the bottom floor. I woke abruptly in the middle of the night to the sound of rushing water coming from somewhere upstairs. I didn't know what it was, but because I like to sleep with no noise and it was bothering me, I reluctantly got up out of bed and went upstairs. I could see the bathroom at the end of the upstairs hallway. The lights were off, but the door was slightly ajar and I could see that the faucet was fully turned on. Like the knob was fully turned and it was just gushing water. I walked down the hall, preparing to enter the room, turn the faucet off and shut the door, and then go back to bed. But right in front of the door, I started to get this creepy feeling, like something was wrong and I shouldn't go in there. It was almost that feeling you get when someone is watching you. So instead of going in the room, I quietly but quickly made my way back downstairs and went into bedroom and locked the door. I called 911 and told them that there could have been an intruder in my house. They told me to stay on the line and stay in my bedroom. A few moments later, possibly the scariest thing that's ever happened to me happened. I heard creaking and footsteps, like someone was walking downstairs. And then I heard doors opening in the house, like someone was searching for me. I knew if they tried my bedroom door and found out it was locked, then they would know I was in there. Would they attempt to break down the door? I started crying, and then I moved into the very back of my closet, hiding behind some clothes, as far away as I could get. The officer told me to stay calm and use anything available as a weapon, just in case. Thankfully, he must have left shortly after, because I didn't hear anything else after that. About 10 minutes later, the police arrived. The police did a full search, and there was no sign of him at all. He was gone. I'm completing fine now, but I still cringe when thinking about what might have happened if I would have went into the bathroom that night. I'm confident that he was standing behind the door, and who knows what he would have done if he had the opportunity to jump me. It's unlikely, but if anyone else finds themselves in a situation like this, always go with your gut. I decided to play scared that night, and it probably saved my life.
Thanks for listening to tonight's terrifying tale. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Tell me in the comments what kind of horror stories you'd like to hear next. Urban legends, haunted places, true crime twists, or something from your own nightmares. Until next time, keep the lights on, just in case.